That is some high energy. How is everybody? Yes! Oh, welcome to Comedy Emulator, you guys. This is our, our fourth or fifth time emulating comedy from here at DromeBox. Thank you guys for joining us. My favorite thing, as usual, is the gold mic. I love the golden mic so much. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing? I don't know why I'm doing a weird stretch right now. Just popping a few ribs, I don't know. I'm excited because my foot is less broken than it was a month ago, so I'm great. I'm in a good place. I was in New Orleans for a wedding, and we discovered that a friend of mine was not able to carry me during Under Pressure by Bowie and Queen, which is really no friendship at all, honestly, if you think about it. I got tired of telling that whole story when people would be like, why are you limping? And now I'm just like, New Orleans! I just yell New Orleans until they leave me alone. Definitely, without a doubt, at least at first thought, probably one of the biggest tragedies that's happened in that city was my foot breaking. Oh, we're having a good time at Comedy Emulator. I'm one of your Triforce of hosts. Let me bring up the other two. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Brock Wilbur and Brandie Posey, you guys. You guys, come on in.
Hey, I'm Brandie, that's Brock, in case anyone was confused as to which was which.
I still do sometimes. You're wearing a cape, and I think we should just get into it.
Okay, so last Sunday, I went to Medieval Times, give it up for knighthood and whatnot, because I have a bunch of really awesome friends. Several of them are in this room, and I had a really bad couple months ago, and they bought me 2 tickets to Medieval Times as like a cheer me up present.
Because you don't drop your friends during Under Pressure.
No, you don't.
Justin?
My thing was I was in Kansas all week, and it turns out they have karaoke there now. It just got there. In 2015.
In Kansas or the Kansas Medieval Times?
No, just in regular. All of Kansas is medieval times.
Medieval Times.
Yes. We call it NASCAR. The karaoke list is just like 40 songs, and one of the songs that they had on the list was Under Pressure. And I was like, well, how crazy. I'm very drunk. What if I broke my foot here in the same manner as, but it turned out it was just the Under Pressure as performed by My Chemical Romance.
Oh, which just broke your heart.
And the Used, you know that version of it, which I was like, it's the same music, so why does it need to specifically not be the like, it's just a MIDI thing. Like, I don't know why it's that one.
That would also be the worst single white femaling of all time. You sing Under Pressure and you break your foot. It's the worst movie. It's the worst way to copy somebody.
Yeah, no, that's a shitty copycat. How was Medieval Times?
It was fucking fantastic. I had a little bit extra money after I bought my 2 tickets, and there's a thing in June, you guys, where you can buy the Father's Day package, which I obviously did, because why not? YOLO. I think the definition of YOLO is buying the Father's Day package for yourself when you are not a father at Medieval Times. Like, that's...
Right.
I got the Papa Pack. That was it. That included a giant beer stein that says royalty across the front of it. A cape that says Dad rules.
I love that it's not even like King Dad or...
Dad rules. And I got my photo taken alone. And I got a little thing that declares me King of the Realm. It says, Let it be known that on this special day, His Majesty, Don Carlos, has proclaimed that all brave fathers be given kingship and the honors thereof. Happy Father's Day, June 2015, medieval times.
That's a really good commercial headshot, too.
Dude, seriously, it was so funny because I walked in with my boyfriend and we had the Father's Day package ticket, and the photographer went over to my boyfriend and was just like, okay, cool, you go up there. And I was like, he's not the father. Which was a really fun Jerry Springer moment for all of us. And then they
Thank
looked.
you for bringing gender fluidity to the caste system. This was
No
an
big
important
deal.
first step.
Yeah. Fathers can be anything they want to be, you know what I mean? It's all good. So then I took it, and the Squire, 15-year-old pimply-faced kid, could not have given a shit. It was just like, all right, post your picture, and it just went, bam! Just like, hit it and quit it. It was fucking amazing, you guys.
Dad
Nailed
rules
it.
because he's a rule. It's like that's what it was.
King of the
Just-
realm! King of the realm.
Who was your knight?
Our knight, oh man, we had the
Yellow.
Yellow and red. You don't want the knights that are two tones that never fucking win. Yellow and red. He was the first one out. He was the pretty boy, which means he never had to work for anything. But he did have the most diverse squires, which I yelled about on several occasions. Because we had a Latina lady, we had a black guy, and then we had a little white guy. We had like the most diverse squires out of all of the squires, which I felt good about.
You're the first sober person to ever enjoy medieval times and also get mad at it.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best. I was the best dad there. Second best dad was sitting next to me, though. Second best dad so when you win at medieval times, when the knights win a challenge, they're given 3 carnations, and then they take them over and they throw them at the underage girls in the crowd, which is in front of their section, which is strange. That's always been a thing with me with Renfest, where you're just like, child brides are weird in 2015. Maybe we don't. Maybe we let go of that tradition. It's a little bit weird. Anyway, our knight kept giving them to the little girls in the front, and the dad next to me just kept being like, yeah, keep giving the 1%ers even more, which was a beautiful thing I did not expect to encounter at medieval times in Buena Park, man.
I love social justice medieval times.
It's the best.
Banksy Dad? I like Banksy Dad.
Banksy Dad. It was the best.
Social justice Black Knight. I love it. That's awesome. We always had to go to medieval times on high school band trips. And
Had to?
Had to.
Speaking of the 1%.
Speaking of the 1%, marching band medieval time trip, and we always had, yeah. You do marching band, you go to medieval times. It's a thing. But we always had the.
I don't know which one I'm
night.
madder about now, having never gone to medieval times or not having been in marching band, because you're just outing me on everything here. These are all things I don't get to participate in.
Sorry, buddy.
You could Billy Madison yourself back in Another shitty movie. I want to play the cymbals and marching band, 30-year-old man. That's actually not as bad as a movie. I'm not opposed to that.
No one take this, internet. That's
You don't fuck with us. Look,
that's how we start the show, I think. That's
yeah.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, do not fuck with King Dad. Welcome to the show. Give it up for Brock. Give it up for Brandie.
Give it up for Joe. Hell yeah.
Give it up for all of you, lords and ladies. We're taking you on a tale of wonder, back in time. I would not do well at medieval times at all. Did not get that call back. Ladies and gentlemen, you ready for your show? Bring up your first comedian. Very funny woman, very excited to have here. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa Gritton, you guys. Give it up for her.
I actually lost a crap ton of weight in junior high because of medieval times. I was sitting in the front row with a bunch of other girls, and I didn't get a rose, and I was really heartbroken by that. And I was like, it's because I'm the fat one, isn't it? So I started running every summer, and I lost 30 pounds. So thank you, medieval times. Fun fact about losing 30 pounds. This saying should go, a moment on the lips, a moment on the hips, a lifetime on a psyche. You're fat forever. The other thing that they don't tell you is that your tolerance for alcohol plummets. The other day I had one drink at a bar, I locked myself in the stall, and then I cried to a stranger for 20 minutes about my childhood dog, Sassy. And the last thing they don't tell you is that girls that used to push 210 are really good at blowjobs. I believe that there's a direct correlation between a desperate plea to be loved and validated and how much processed foods you can eat at one moment. I hear a lot of women talking about how they're in their 30s, late to 30s, early 30s, and it's weird that they're not married yet. I think it's weirder that I can't legally rent a car and I'm getting a divorce. I'm only 23 years old and I'm getting a divorce. I totally get my husband, because being married to a stand-up comic is like being forcefully conjoined to a twin that insists on doing heroin. Getting divorced over a job that makes less money than loitering in front of a CVS. If the knee socks and the early marriage weren't an indication, I went to a really private religious high school. So religious that I had to be baptized in order to attend. And as I'm being baptized, and I swear to God the priest set me up on this, as he's lowering me on the dunk, he says, "May be penetrated by the love of Christ." And I'm laughing, and then he dunks, and then now I'm drowning. Which poses the question, if a girl drowns in a pool of holy water laughing at a dick joke, is she still saved? I've just started dating again, and that's stupid. Dating after being out of the game for like 4 years is like returning to your childhood neighborhood and finding out that MS-13 took over. Dating now is scary because things guys try to do to impress me just freaks me out. A guy told me that he could bench press 150 to try and impress me, and my response was to be terrified but followed by delighted because I'm delightfully chubby, so I'm 30 pounds out of his wheelhouse and he can't throw me out a window. Actually, I was really happy about that. And then I tried to tell him, like, oh no, but I don't have any upper body strength. But my legs are really strong, because I gave away my weakness, like, right off the bat. I used to think guys only liked me for my common blood type and bountiful organs. I had an experience that taught me differently. I was at a bar and a gentleman asked me for my number and I declined. And then he asked if I can help start his car because its breathalyzer start and he was hammered. So now I know guys only like me for my breath. So I'm 23, I'm getting a divorce, I talked about blowjobs, so my dad's sad. We've had a bit of a rocky relationship, but if you guys could just please do me a favor and give it up for my dad, who finally showed up after like 2 years of comedy, so give it up. I don't know where he is either. Of course he didn't show up. And now that you all feel like me, every high school pageant of my life, let's go over why Dad's sad. He taught me 4 languages. He sent me to private school. He tried to have me playing concert violin. I'm doing this. He raised me to have all the cunning in class of like the best Kennedy, and I came out the worst Bush. I am that man's Hindenburg. One thing that dating again has taught me, though, is that I can finally accept the fact that I am attractive. But not as attractive as I have to be for how annoying I am. I'd say if I did the math, I need to be a solid 2 inches taller and 10 pounds lighter for how much I talk through movies. Because of being like a former fat kid, I'm really socially awkward, but not like the cute, adorkable kind that's become so popular, but like the kind where if I push a pull door in public and I make eye contact with someone, I don't want to get out of bed for like 3 days. So I recently had a fun experience. I sat down for a haircut, and the lady said horrible things about me in Spanish the entire time, fully unaware that I speak perfect Spanish. Because when you have a face like this, but a voice that says perfect minority hire for Fox News, people just assume you're something Egyptian. And there's nothing like being able to understand what somebody says about you when they don't know that you understand that makes you regret every birthday you blow out the candles on your cake and wish for the ability to read minds. My first encounter with an experience like this was I was on a bus and these two guys were speaking Spanish and they just assumed I was something brown and not of their ethnicity. And as I walked by, one said to the other in Spanish, "Hey, check out that chick in the back. She's got tits like 80s Van Art." And I was in a really bad place because I couldn't say anything because it wouldn't be like, wow, this chick could read minds, but it'd be more like, this bitch eavesdrops. But anyways, I'm getting this haircut with this woman and she starts speaking to her coworker in Spanish. And the first thing that she says to her is, "Mira este pelo azul. Está loca." Translation: I feel like you understood me. "Look at this blue hair. What a lunatic." To be fair, I get the correlation between blue hair and mental instability. Once the dye touched my hair, the long-winded Facebook statuses just materialized and the manic pixie nightmare began. But I wouldn't say mentally unstable. But I do want to find out what she has to say next. And by now, she's talking about my race and my ethnicity, and she doesn't think I'm Hispanic, and I'm ethnically ambiguous enough to where I'm either like fetishized or hated specifically. But the next thing she says to her is, "Ella tiene pelo de negrita, ¿por qué no me dijo?" Translation: she's got black girl hair, why didn't she warn me? Don't feel like that's something I gotta warn someone about. I shouldn't have to announce in a room. But what I have noticed is that I'm checking my bank account and I can no longer afford this haircut, so I need her to be racist. And I'm not saying anything now because I'm not gonna get half a free haircut. So as I'm waiting, the next thing she says to me is, "Este muchachita tiene pink eye." Pink eye in Spanish is pink eye. That's an easy one to get. But she's accusing me of having pink eye, and semantics really matter to me, and I had run into a spider web that morning, so it was spider web eye, not pink eye. Although according to my Uber driver, it was good old cum eye. Still gave him 4 stars. Got me there safely. But at this point, I'm now being petty, so I rubbed my eye, and then I touched her hand, and I watched her insides die. So by now, it's done. She already put the final nail in the Vanessa gets free shit coffin. And I'm getting ready to speak up. So I look at her and I say in Spanish, "Si puedes hacerme un favor para subir el volumen de la televisión, porque no quiero terminar esto con tú hablando mal de mí." Translation: if you could do me a solid and turn up the volume on the TV, because I don't want to finish this with you talking shit about me. And it got dead quiet. Because that's the sound of me winning an argument. Because that's what happens when an unstoppable bitch meets an immovable broke asshole. That's my time, thanks.
For Vanessa Gritton, you guys. Hey, got me thinking about this. A buddy of mine is mixed race. He's Japanese and German, and he has a son that just started the 3rd grade. And his son is starting to ask a lot of questions about race and other people's race and what it means that he's mixed race. And he's really just trying to wrap his head around the concept. And I couldn't help but think like that's not even a conversation I ever imagined having to have with you know, like that's with a kid. Like that's not even one that I have even fathomed. And I just felt so blessed that as 2 Caucasian people, my wife and I will never have to have that conversation with our 2 cats. Ever. Keep it going again for Vanessa, you guys. She was awesome. bring up your next comedian. She's the lady of the realm. It's Brandie Posey, you guys.
I had to run on stage so my cape would flow with the air behind me. Oh my gosh. Here's another crazy girl with blue hair coming to the stage in a cape. You said that, and I was just sitting in the back, and I was just like, it's bullshit that people think we're crazy with dye our hair blue. And then I looked down, and I realized I was wearing a cape that says Dad Rules on it. And was like, you know what? Fair point, world. You make a fair point. But it's so funny, like, it's funny because, like, people call women crazy all the time, and it's so infuriating because there's, like, varying levels of crazy because it's such a broad word. Like, I get told that I'm like, you do such crazy shit all the time. And I'm like, no, there's a difference between, like, going on a spontaneous road trip and then, like, making a hair doll with the clippings of your ex. Like, those are two... There should be different words for different things. Like, if you, like, do a food challenge with your friends, well, it's crazy if you're a woman and you eat in front of people anyway. But, like, if you, like, do a food challenge with your friends and you're like, let's see how many tacos we can all eat in, like, 2 minutes. It's crazy. That's crazy. No, what's crazy is, like, writing poetry about an ex and then writing it on your arm so it becomes a part of you. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. It's not crazy if you wear a wacky outfit to a roller rink. It's crazy if you live tweet your ambulance ride because you, like, decided to fake a suicide attempt to trap somebody into liking you while wearing a wacky outfit. That's crazy. Just choose words carefully is all I'm asking. Like, crazy can be fun or it can be really sad. I don't know. I just get mad at being told that all the time. It's funny because there's a lot of like dude comics too that'll just be like, when they do impersonations of like their girlfriends or like women in their life, they're always like, oh my God, they talk in this voice. And I'm just like, don't date those people. If this is somebody's voice, don't date them. It's not rocket science. I kind of think you're crazy for wanting to be with somebody that talks like this all the time. Like, women talk like this. This is a woman's voice coming from my body right now. It's a perfectly pleasing sound. It's fine. It's not naggy. It's not obnoxious. Is it crazy to think that, like, this is a voice that, like, that anybody could love? I don't know if that's an insane thing or not. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that women are people. Is that the sad ending of that bit? I don't know. Let's talk about Renfest, you guys. Got my cape on. I met the funniest person alive at a Renaissance festival in Maryland. It's my favorite place in the world. My favorite performer is a guy that performs at the Renaissance Festival in Maryland every year. He's a juggling chainsaw comedian is his name, which is like a stage thing, which is great because you know all of those chainsaws that were in the Renaissance. Not the most factually accurate guy, but he's my favorite guy because you go and you see him, and every time that I see him, I've seen him for at least 15 years in a row. He tells the exact same tired, dead-eyed jokes to the same audiences every single night with nary a difference. And that man throws chainsaws into the air and catches them, saying yes to life every single time that he does. He could end it all on a blaze of glory, but he chooses not to. He says life and continues on, and if he can, he gives me hope every day that I probably should too. I think of him in my darkest hours. He's one of my heroes. It's the best. And a couple of years ago, I saw the greatest thing in my life at one of his shows. At the end of his act, he asked people to throw things up on stage to juggle with his chainsaw. About 4 years ago, this pirate in the back of the crowd pulled out and threw up a copy of Big on DVD. We were at a Renaissance festival where there are no DVDs or DVD players, which means that pirates also don't have pockets, you guys. Which means that little pirate chose to wake up that morning and take a copy of Big on DVD and tuck it between his tights and pantaloons and just wander a Renaissance festival all day, eating chicken legs, hoping for something, to need it for some reason. And fuck me, he was right. So, I know exactly what this moment needs right now. Big on DVD. Why not? I hope that guy carries it with him everywhere, and like Big on DVD has started like dictating his life, you know, like that's his Catcher in the Rye, you know, like that's just like what he like lives his life by. Someday that guy's gonna kill Lennon, you guys. It's gonna be a real problem. Lennon's death would have been a little more whimsical if Tom Hanks was involved, right? That's how likable Tom Hanks is. If it had been like Big on DVD and Lee Harvey Oswald, is it Lee Harvey Oswald or Mark David Chapman? Lee Harvey Oswald. Mark David Chapman. I get them confused, which is not a part of the joke. I should remember. 3 names is so many names. It's so many names to have to remember. Mark David Chapman. What if he had Big on DVD instead of Catcher in the Rye in his pocket? Tom Hanks' career would have gone a whole different direction. I'll tell you what, Forrest Gump would not have happened. Because you can't make that guy that likable if there's like a real life murder. Like what if that was the Forrest Gump that actually happened? They had Tom Hanks, they were shooting it at the time that Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon, but like they just used Tom Hanks as Forrest Gump to thwart that death. Like, and then he saw himself on the cover of Big and was like, who am I? I'm straight edge, you guys. I've never smoked pot in my life. Just like to point that out sometimes, because people tell me I should, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I come up with some weird shit anyway. We're fine. I live with my boyfriend now, which I feel good about, because he is the best roommate. Because I can have real discussions with him as opposed to leaving passive-aggressive notes, because I want this relationship to live forever, as opposed to with a roommate, you're just like, when you move in with a friend of yours, what you're basically saying is, this friendship has a shelf life, right? Because you're just like, at some point, we're going to argue about dishes or trash, and then I'm never coming to your wedding. Like, that's what a roommate when you're friends is. That's basically saying, you know what, I don't need you in any more photos after 2 years from now. We're done forever. I used to live with this guy, my last roommate before me and my boyfriend moved in together, was this guy that was a cruise ship improviser, which is, the comedians in the back are laughing because it's a rough gig. A cruise ship improviser is a guy that goes on a cruise ship and it's just like, hey, bah, 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 give me a word, ha, to like just people filling themselves with food that are just like, make me laugh so I don't jump off the boat. I'm stuck on this with my family for a week. What was I thinking? Like a cruise is like Las Vegas on the water. It's everything that's wrong. Oh, God. I hate it. This guy, he slept in like my living room. He like bought like a chunk of my living room, and it was awful because like he would only eat things that were like yellow and brown, and he learned to play the fucking ukulele on the cruise ship, which don't. If you're a large man, don't play a ukulele. You're condescending to yourself. What are you thinking? Come on, man. And it was awful because I feel like my roommate, like, I grew to hate him a lot. I tolerated him at the beginning, but I learned to hate him because I think my roommate somehow unwittingly became Zooey Deschanel's Portrait of Dorian Gray. And like every adorable, whimsical thing that we've just let her get away with no consequences, all of the consequences just hit my ex-roommate tenfold. So he would just be sitting there like a fat lump, like playing the ukulele, and she's the most beloved name in all of the land. Meanwhile, I'd come home and he'd be, this was my impression of him. He'd be like, well, start playing the ukulele and it's light outside, and then it's getting dark because I'm a stupid fat fuck. I'm not gonna turn the lights on, so I'll just play the ukulele in the dark so my roommate, me, can come home and just hear me fucking up Rainbow Connection in a corner of the place that she sleeps at night. It's awful. You know, like when you watch a horror movie and you don't see the villain, it's scarier. My life used to be like that, except with sadness. That's what it was like with this dude. It was the worst thing in the world, man. I'm so glad he's out of my life now. It's great. I obviously don't like Zooey Deschanel. That's a thing that I'm just not a fan of, because I don't trust you if you're that happy and you've been divorced. Because divorce is basically standing up in a court of law with somebody that swore to love you forever, and that person goes, ugh, in front of like a guy in a robe. You don't get to be that whimsical, and that's coming from the girl with blue hair and a blue cape that says Dad rules. You don't get to be that whimsical. Like, admit the pain in your life, it's fine. I'm also wearing skeletons, like, I get it, like, come on. Like, she just doesn't admit that there's, like, sadness in the world, and, like, you can't appreciate happiness without admitting your sadness, too. Like, I feel like even Zooey Deschanel's, like, 9/11 story is, like, whimsical as fuck, you know what I mean? If you, like, ask her, she's like, I don't know, I woke up to the sound of birds chirping. Cartoon birds, not real birds. Cartoon birds chirp for me. And then I was, like, stretching in my footy pajamas. Ooh. And then the birds helped dress me. It was super cute. And then I stepped into my living room, and, like, we'd been camping in there the night before, like, camping indoors, because it's crazy. We live in a city. And then we, like, started a fire. Not a real fire. We had, like, a fire made out of, like, orange construction paper and a couple of flashlights. It was so fun to pretend to warm ourselves over it, because I don't want to actually hurt anybody. And then we turned on our old-timey radio, because old-timey things make you interesting. Did you guys know that? So we turned on our radio, and then the second tower fell. So I wrote a song about it using a washboard and spoons. Thank you for liking that one. Some people don't. It's fine. I'm from DC, you guys. I have a 9/11 friend. It's fine. That's the having a black friend of 2015. I got a couple of them. It's all good. Whatever. Oh man, I kind of work for myself for the most part now, which is really awesome, and I feel good about it. I had a day job that I quit last year. Well, my department was shut down, but I left. It's fine. But I'm really glad that I'm out of there, because it made me feel, I was like this really corporate gig, basically, and I was like their weird idea girl. I was like the blood spatter expert on like a criminal show, but like in like an automotive marketing office. It was a really weird place to be like, oh, let's just go check in with the wacky one for a minute, I guess. Here's some ideas. And they'd be like, you solved the case, kid, but we won't actually credit you. It's fine. It's like that. But I realized when I was there, I do this thing where I'm a muse, you guys, but not the kind that you're used to. I'm not a person that inspires like poetry or paintings or things like that. I inspire midlife crises in 40-somethings, which is a skill I didn't know I had, but I did. I had one of my bosses come up to me. This is also, don't feel bad for him in this joke, because this is a guy that coined the term idea J's, as in idea DJs. And that's what we call ourselves in meetings, you guys. So fuck Dennis. We can all agree, right? Okay. That phrase just like hits you in the heart, and then it doesn't, like, that hurt more than my 9/11 joke, right? Oh, Jesus, man. Whew. It's a rough little phrase. Dennis came up to me one day, and I have this t-shirt that's like a T-Rex destroying a stadium full of people with an electric guitar, and it says, Monsters of Rock. It's like an old vintage shirt. And he came up to me, and he was just like, oh my God, I have that shirt. I went to that tour. And like, when I went on that tour, that was the best summer of my life. Fuck, man. My band was still together, and like, oh my God, like, I still have it, you know? Like, it doesn't fit me anymore, but like, when I met my wife, just her in that shirt was like the sexiest thing that I've ever seen. But it doesn't fit her anymore either. And now sometimes she just puts it on the dog. And then Dennis's Bluetooth went off, and the song was Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. And I just looked at him and just backed away slowly, because I had destroyed a man by making coffee. It was absolutely terrible. I watched him become, just in front of me, he just looked at me. I became a time machine that like zapped him back in time, where he was like gonna tour the country with that band, and he was gonna like bang groupies all over the place. And then he jumped forward to the future, and he just realized that he was just like a douche in a suit that's married to a Chubbs McGrubbs, and they dress their pets. So I'm really glad I don't work there anymore, you guys. Thanks, I'm Brandie.
Oh my God, never take off that cape for as long as you live. Oh, that was so good. You guys enjoying the show? Yes. I always wanted at least one outspoken audience member to be like, well. I don't actually want that, but it's a fear that I have every time I ask that question. There's going to be one guy that's just like, meh! Got it on a Groupon, I guess. Grouponed it. Brandie does not like giant men with ukuleles, which is why it's very funny when my wife was like, I want to learn how to play ukulele. Brock was like, have mine. But in his defense, it was a baritone ukulele. A ukulele for the more masculine mindset. Plinky enough for her, but weight balanced for a man. That's good. You guys ready for your headliner? This woman's amazing. She just recorded her album Intimate Apparel. You can buy it on iTunes. Put your hands together for Rye Silverman.
Keep it going for Joe, Brandie, and Brock, and Vanessa, guys. Give it up for all of them. Oh my gosh, you guys. Before I start into my set, I want you to know that I also know what I look like. And there is not a big reveal coming. We are not like in an 80s comedy where my uncle died, now I'm doing this for like a month to get an inheritance. I'm just adorable. That's all there is to it. No, I'm transgender, and I find the comedy show goes a whole lot better if you guys are just cool with it, so we're going to do that. And that's how we're going to do it. All right. Just that's the rule, and I find it works out. I asked them one thing before I get into my act. I just want to. I feel like we had this weird soap opera of Brock tonight, and I came up with Joe and the ukulele, and earlier you have Joe and you have Brandie and you have Brock, and Brandie and Joe are talking about how every band trip went to medieval times, which I was in choir. We did the same thing, and I realized hearing them talk that is probably how every school's music department gets around not being able to go to Disney all 3 days. Like, in my mind, I was always like, why does Orlando have so many things that aren't Disney? Like, who goes to, like, Orlando and is like, well, I don't feel like going to Universal Studios or Disney. Let's go to Dave's Go-Kart Emporium. Turns out it is exclusively funded by high school music departments that are on a trip. But what I liked about that whole thing, and I think on that same vein, I feel like the indoor water park hotel has got to have ruined every dad's road trip for at least a generation. Right? Because I remember when I was a kid and we went like on vacations, we would stop, and like as long as a motel had a pool, we were like, oh my God, this is the best vacation ever. Even if it was in the middle of winter and the pool was shut down. You're like, this hotel has a pool, this is awesome, life is great. Now you literally have dads on a road trip and they pull up to the hotel and a kid will say, just a pool? Thanks, Dad. You even fail at vacation. Mom was right to leave. But what I like about Brock is that Brock lamented that he didn't get to go to medieval times because he wasn't in band. He left out the convenient detail that he was a high school football player and a college football player. Brock, what you've committed is gentrification. You've gentrified nerdiness. You have been, you are the rich guy who buys an apartment in a crappy neighborhood because like, I want to be where all the cool kids are. And then just, because my life was so cool until a certain point, and I didn't have all the grunge I could have had in my life. Let's move on into that. And that is totally true, because we got here tonight to the show, to the studio area, which is in like an ethnic neighborhood, and we pull up and Brock goes, I want this to be my identity, this whole neighborhood. So I need a ride home, because I just made fun of mine. Guys, just realized it's not a good neighborhood to be trans and making fun of your ride, so I should probably backtrack a little bit. You guys remember how funny Brock Wilbur was every time you've seen him? It's delightful. It's good, dude. before the show, you guys could have seen me doing my opening routine, which is digging through a bowl of Jelly Bellies trying to find the buttered popcorn. So eventually I'll find it. That's my life goal. Not yet, though. I'm going to get there, guys. When the show's over, you'll find me afterwards. So yeah, I'm transgender, and the way to think of me is not as a man who is wearing an awesome dress. It is as a woman who is overcoming the world's worst body issues. Like, every issue of Cosmo can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. They have not published one for me yet. They it's always like, when I go shopping with my girlfriends, they'll be like, hey, do these pants make my ass look fat? And I'm like, no, your ass is great, you should buy those pants. Hey, do these pants make my dick still exist? No, Stacy, don't tell me what I want to hear, tell me the truth. Do I still have a penis? I do. Oh, they can't make pants anymore. Every pair. It's weird to be in LA, being trans. People always have their, like, no one gets it. Like, and I understand it's a new thing you're not, like, being exposed to yet, and it's like, I get, like, so I always try to tell people, like, transgender is like an umbrella term to be somebody who doesn't identify with your birth identified sex, and then, like, a transvestite is like an older term for somebody who just, like, dresses as the opposite sex sometimes. They may or may not be trans. Same thing as cross-dressing. You may or may not be trans. You wear the opposite sex clothing. And then a crawler is a donut that has, like, powdered sugar. It's like ridges, you know, like a tire, and is like covered in sugar. Like, I'm gonna eat that. That's a crawler. It's good stuff. Sometimes they have frosting on them, not always. The funny thing about LA, it actually comes full circle with LA transgender and donuts, is that the one. I'm gonna explain that. That's not like a weird. You guys, you know, they always say life is like being transgender and eating donuts, right, Forrest? To bring it back. Before I move on to the bit, I was going to tell the one thing I thought of during Brandie's thing. When you were talking about Mark David Chapman having watched Big instead of reading Catcher in the Rye, all I pictured was I had this whole mental image in my head of Mark David Chapman shooting John Lennon and then playing Heart and Soul. like that's how he gets away. Like, it's like exactly in my mind. Like, it's just bam, do do do. Or what if it was Imagine and the whole thing comes together? So yeah, when you're in LA, everyone's like, the big thing is that there's a intersection in Los Angeles, for those of you watching at home, where it is famous for having trans sex workers there. And guess who loves to tell me that? Every single other person in Los Angeles. They all think they're the ones, like, and I don't know why everybody also happens to know where the best sex worker hookup is, but they're all like, hey, you know about it, right? Like, that's not cool. But the thing that's weird also is at the same intersection. So the intersection, if you're looking, it's Santa Monica and, like, Highland. That's the area. And Santa Monica Boulevard, Highland Avenue. And at that same corner, there's a donut shop, which I have to believe makes the best donuts you can find anywhere, because they are still in business. Like, that cannot be a lucrative corner just for random donut passerby. And I told that joke one night on stage, and somebody yelled out from the audience, well, hoes gotta eat. That is true. You are correct. Hoes are sex workers, they're human beings, they do require sustenance to survive. That is an accurate point you have made. However, that is not what we would call a sustainable business model. If you don't believe me, go try to get a small business loan tomorrow and put down reason for funding, hoes gotta eat. Unless you're trying to buy half of Little Debbie, that will not work for you. I hope they make ho-hos, that way that joke does not make any sense at all. If that is hostess, which it probably is because it makes sense in your head now you think about a ho-ho's hostess, oh man, I should just quit comedy, you guys. I can't believe I didn't pull that together. Thing. What a ding-dong this one is, right? Oh man. I'm not going to lie, you guys should all be carrying me around your shoulders right now after that one. That was a good save. But that means that like there are people who are going. Let's take the gender identity stuff out of it. It's still a corner famous for sex work, and you know I'm not gonna judge people. People got to make money. You got to survive. You survive. Do it. You know, we'll take care of you. Whatever. But there are people who are participating in that business. They're customers of that their clientele who are then stopping to get a dozen donuts for their family on the way home. Like right now, at this second, there is a guy getting a Boston cream roll who will then buy a baker's dozen of Boston cream rolls for tomorrow morning. And I realized I've been wrong about this place the whole time. I drove by it on the way here tonight, and I noticed that in the lobby of this thing, they have one of those ATMs that charges a surcharge, and that's probably how they make all their money. Because that's like you know, like when you go in the desert, there's like that one last gas station, and it's like no more services for 60 miles. Like that is the service ATM right there. That is like if you don't have cash now, you might as well go home because you're not gonna. All right. The fun thing too, at the other end of that same block at Santa Monica and La Brea, which is a more busy intersection, there is also a business that is pretty popular. It is a store called Target. And here's the thing. I don't have sex for money, but I do shop the shit out of a Target. Because I make that kind of money. And then the weird thing is I will go to that Target dressed the way that I do, and then people will treat me like I'm working. You know, it's like, do you guys ever have the experience of going to Target but accidentally wearing a red shirt? It's kind of like that. The questions get a whole lot creepier. And the manager's a lot more bossy. Take a second, that's fine. And the sex workers also shop at that Target, and it's kind of like they'll be on a lunch break, or they'll go to like Starbucks, and they'll pop in, they'll see me, and they'll look at me, and they'll look confused for a while at me, because it's like I'm the new hoe who hasn't gotten her shit together yet. They're like, bitch, Laser, what are you doing? I'm like, I have got a Groupon, I'm getting on it. So I just hate that's the only stereotype that I get is the sex worker thing, because like I don't think it's the only stereotype. And it's also like, let's get rid of the socioeconomic aspects of it of like, hey, you know why there's so many trans sex workers? Because you don't give us jobs doing anything else. Putting that aside, let's go ahead and like, why is that still the only stereotype that you give us? Because like that's not the only one you're given. Every mainstream Hollywood movie where you see what you think is a man in a dress, there's always a story behind it. It's always like Mrs. Doubtfire trying to keep his family together, or something like a Hot on the run from the mob, or like Tootsie's trying to get acting work, you know? Why don't I ever get that stereotype? Why is it always like, oh my God, that is a guy in a dress? If you're going to misgender me, get it right. If you're going to see me, don't go, oh my God, that's a guy in a dress. I bet he gives a bargain basement BJ. Just once, I want you to be, oh my God, that's a guy in a dress. Oh, I hope he gets his kids back. I want some donuts. Travel a lot doing comedy. I did a gig one time in a town called Smith Station, Alabama, where I wore pants. Did this gig, I did this gig, and part of the deal when you're on the road doing comedy is you get paid in like not quite enough money and a hotel room. And it was me and another comic. He was headlining. He booked it. We each had our own room, whatever. But on the way there, he goes, oh, hey, by the way, I told them that we don't need anything fancy. Just give us a place that we can lay our head. And then they took him as literally as possible. We found out later that they put us into the town meth den of Smith Station, Alabama. So they basically put us into that house from Breaking Bad with the sad kid in the ATM machine. Sweet dreams. And we get there, and also on the way to Smith Station, we did a gig in Huntsville, Alabama, which is on the other side of the state. And they go, oh, where are you guys going tomorrow? And we go, oh, we're going to Smith Station. And they go, ugh. Do you know how messed up a town in Alabama has to be for other Alabamans to go, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Good seeing you. We get there, and in the parking lot of the motel we're staying at, there's a family that lives there. The motel. All right, and they're having a family activity in the middle. They don't have the medieval times tickets yet, so they're in the family parking lot of the motel, and they have a lawnmower. Okay, I just let you guys know they lived at a motel, and they got a lawnmower in the parking lot. They were not mowing a lawn, is what I'm getting at. They're not doing their chores. This is an activity for the family to get involved in. It is the dad driving around in circles while their son rides on the hood. That's their Dave's Go-Kart Emporium. Okay. Watching this happen is the wife, who's holding three things. She's holding a beer, a cigarette, and their baby. If she needs to take a drag off that cigarette, what does she do? Hands aren't free. She hands the beer to the baby. Because in Smith Station, Alabama, baby doubles as beer koozie. So then I go to check into my room, and I realize, oh my God, I can't stay in this room because there's a few things I need to have on the road. I'm a bit of a diva, I'll admit it. Like, it says so inside my jeans. I like to have a coffee pot. I can't have that. I can deal with that. If I have no coffee pot, I can go to a gas station. That's fine. But I do insist that my hotel room have a door attached to it. And that was missing at the hotel in Smith Station, Alabama. I don't know if you guys have ever had the experience of having to complain to the front desk at a motel there is not a door attached to your room, but you will not be prepared to have that conversation. So it doesn't make any sense. With a hotel arrangement, I think door is actually more important than bed. Because what do they give you when you check into a hotel? A key. That is a gentleman's agreement that there's going to be something to put that key in when you get to the room. So I'm running short on time. I spent so much time making fun of Brock that I have to wrap this up really quickly. So I go in and complain to the girl, and I'm like, hey, there's no door in my room. And she stops, and she looks at me with her good eye, and she says to me, she goes, oh, come on. I mean, none of them going to take your stuff. I'm sorry. Did you just tell me that none of them going to take my stuff? So you're telling me you went out there and you asked all of them, and they all agreed that none of them going to take my stuff. I'll tell you right now, guys, I'll tell you what I told her. I don't believe them because at least one of them took the door. Thank you guys very much. I'm Rye Silverman.
Keep it going for Rye Silverman, you guys. Keep it going for Rye. Keep it going for Vanessa. Brock, Brandie, myself. Keep it going for Tom Hanks. Thank you guys so much for coming out. This has been Comedy Emulator. Thank you, DromeBox. We'll see you guys next time. Good night.
The following program is intended for a mature audience.